Ever since Trump got reelected, I've been asking myself, is it all up with us? I mean, given what's happening, are we nearing the end of Republican government under the Constitution? And if so, is there anything at all that we can do? As far as I can tell, an all out abrogation of the Constitution is underway. We're seeing Trump punish political rivals, violate the rights of citizens and non citizens with impunity. We're seeing him propose using the military against his own people. We're seeing him change the electoral map in certain states to work in his favor. We're seeing him go after outspoken critics and punish free speech. We're seeing him chip away at the independence of the Federal Reserve. We're seeing him build up cadres of loyalists in government, all too eager to please. We've seen him flip-flop, lie, and take credit for events that aren't even happening. We've seen him drive up the price of goods for the sake of some foolish provinciality. We've seen him go after medical experts, after safe medical procedures, for the sake of elevating nuts like RFK Jr., who are playing with people's lives. We're seeing the president artfully enrich himself and his already rich family. We're seeing him erect a vast propaganda network, which will expand further with the TikTok deal and the more sinister uses of AI. In general, we're seeing him degrade the functionality and prestige of the United States on a colossal scale. All this because the co-equal branches of government that should check Trump aren't. The Supreme Court is rubber stamping him, and so far, the US Congress, which Republicans control, has remained unified behind Trump. Not even a small breakaway group of Republicans has formed, which would moderate the direction of politics and give Democrats some small hope of occasionally attaining a majority. Congress could rein in Trump's actions and compel him to do its will if it were to assert its power. It could make new laws to replace those the Supreme Court has invalidated, and by impeachment and other means discipline high officials in federal government who are committing crimes. But Congress has stopped exercising many of its powers because making big decisions is politically risky. And besides, the dominant Republican Party backs Trump's unlawful actions. So the crisis in government is mainly the fruit of Republican Party dominance. Other factors have contributed to the deterioration of Congress's power and resolve, but the nation is only in a crisis because the Republican Party as a whole has tolerated Donald Trump all these years and gradually adopted his ideology, which is plainly hostile to the populace and to constitutional government itself. Our political system depends on the principle of delegated power. The people elect officials, delegating to them the power to govern in the people's stead. Generally, the Republican system is meant to spare citizens from having to pay close attention to every little question of government by reposing that responsibility in a group of decent, capable leaders. Republican government is built on trust, and it's meant to free the people by empowering those they choose to run the government. Currently, however, officialdom is failing us, leaving the people as a whole in a very confusing situation where it's incumbent on us to assert our sovereign rights as a self-governing people without much help from our leaders, many of whom are shell-shocked and disoriented in the face of this national political emergency. Meanwhile, millions of citizens are overwhelmed, fearful, and disenchanted with the partisanship that's put us here. They've left the parties, stopped voting, stopped watching the grim news. Yet these are the very people who must be mobilized and made to count if the nation is to survive Trumpism and begin moving in a better direction again. Trump, who owes everything to our open society, is working furiously to shut it down and put something prison-like in its place. He assails Americans' freedom and security every time he labels protesters terrorists or enemies. Americans become more vulnerable each time Trump allows ICE to stomp all over the Bill of Rights. At the same time, he continues to rail against modern election practices and to covet the majestic power of Americans expressed when they vote. Even though the 22nd Amendment bars Trump from seeking a third term, if he's still alive in 2028, I have no doubt he will seek and secure the Republican nomination and fight to remain in office by force if necessary. We know Trump will not relinquish power willingly. The American people have it in their power to put down Trump and Trumpism, but it poses daunting intellectual and operational challenges. There are two main courses of action, one more promising than the other. The first is to ramp up popular demonstrations, which could frighten Republicans and prompt them to distance themselves from Trump and maybe cut him loose from their party at last. I don't see demonstrations as holding much promise, though, because Americans aren't motivated to sustain them for months on end across the nation, which is the only thing that will make them effective. Besides, Trump is fully prepared to use the military against citizens. Widespread mass demonstrations would probably precipitate a crackdown and perhaps trigger a declaration of martial law. The second course of action is to begin now to defeat the Republicans in the midterms to such an extent that Trump's opponents hold sizable majorities in both houses of Congress. Then Trump could be impeached or checked in countless other ways. This mode of opposition is more likely to succeed because success at the ballot box is more localized, more purely unobjectionable, and far more difficult to corrupt or control. Personally, I see the midterm elections as the only path open for neutralizing Trump. Millions of Americans continue to view him favorably or to accept his authoritarianism passively. So if the rest of us are going to truly attain a majority vis-a-vis the Republicans, we must start now. It's hard to believe, but it all comes down to the people and what we manage to do in the next 13 months. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I hope that if you find anything of value in this recording, that you will share it with your friends. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope to talk to you again. Thank you.